name is Stacy. I'm a student physical therapist at Rocky Mountain University of Health Professions. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you for asking. So do you want to go by Rocco? Is that an appropriate name to call you?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. So today we're going to be doing initial eval, so I'm going to be asking you some questions. One of the first things I kind of want to talk to you about is your ankle. I kind of looked over your notes a little bit. It looks like everything, as far as like any other diseases or anything, it looks great. So do you mind if I take a couple notes every once in a while?
Not at all.
Okay. So can you kind of tell me about your injury?
So I initially sprained it, just messing around in my backyard with my brother, and that was about 10 years ago.
Okay.
Since then, I've sprained it 4 to 6 more times, and gotten to see a few doctors and physical therapists since to get it checked out, but I haven't ever really noticed any recovery for it.
Okay. Like, is there a certain activity that makes it worse, or just kind of a way you put your ankle or any of that?
It's usually like the movement of stepping backwards, so it's flexed up towards my knee. So
Okay.
my toes are pointing towards my knee, and then I put pressure on it.
Okay.
That's usually what hurts the most. And then any kind of pressure, any kind of significant pressure in that is usually what triggers like a tweak, where I'll have pain on it for a few days.
And what side of the foot is this ankle injury on?
It's kind of the outside of the right ankle.
Is there anything in particular that makes it feel any better? Like if you just kind of rest it or move it around a little bit differently?
Yeah, moving it around, stretching it the opposite direction, so pushing my toe down and kind of like flexing it that way or pulling it that way usually helps to kind of stretch it out and feels better.
Okay. Does that work immediately?
A little bit.
Or is it just continuously doing that kind of helps prevent it from feeling injured?
Yeah, it works a little bit immediately and then slowly over time. It doesn't fix it immediately, but it makes it feel a little bit better. And then as I continue to do that, it feels better over the few days.
Okay, well that's great that you have something to kind of help it. Okay, so are you taking any kind of medications for this, including any supplements?
Nope.
No? Okay. Okay, so you said you've been to some doctors, right?
Mm-hmm.
What kind of information did they give you in regards to this ankle injury?
Not a lot outside of it looking similar to a common basketball injury. And they can't tell why it hasn't healed over such a long time. Usually they say this is a typical injury, lasts a few months before they're back to good working order, but mine has taken a lot longer to heal, obviously. So outside of that being a mystery, they haven't really told me much. Outside of that, they can say that it's sprained and that I fractured it in the past and that it hasn't really healed correctly.
Did they give you any kind of information on your diagnosis as far as did they say it was just sprained, fractured? Any of those kind of words come to mind?
Not that I can recall specifically. I think they usually just refer to it as a sprain or a fracture. I think they say they can tell I fractured it in the past and sprained it since.
Okay, so let's kind of talk about your home situation a little bit. Can you tell me a little bit about how many stories you have, if you have to go up and down any stairs, where you're sleeping, if you have multi-level stairs?
Yep, so I've got like 5 or 6 stairs walking into my house, and then my bedroom's on the top floor, and my most active room that I'm in is on the bottom, is in the basement. So I do go up and down the stairs quite a bit.
Okay. Any friends or family that live close by and kind of how active they are in your life?
I do have a few family members close by. So my cousin lives down the road. He's a few houses down. My mom actually lives about a mile away, and then I've got a brother who lives a few miles away, but I see each of them at least once a week.
Okay, so let's start kind of talking about before your injury. Can you tell me about like your activity levels? How active were you? If you just kind of, hung out at your home a little bit, if you were much more of a mountain person, just a little bit about that.
So I was active pretty much every day, if not every day, doing parkour and free running. I did a lot of hiking back then. I was pretty much always active in some way, shape, or form. since the injury, I've tried to maintain that, but it's slowed down significantly because of the injury, especially over the past few years.
Okay. And so you said you did a lot of parkour and hiking, but you're very active. So let's kind of scale, like, so you were very active before, and since the injury, how much has that slowed down?
The first couple of years, it didn't slow down much, except for during where the injury prevented me from walking or prevented me from doing anything. So I was doing as much as I was able, but then in more recent years, I've got more busy and kind of slacked off on a lot of that. And because of that, it's become a lot more difficult to maintain the activity. So it's dwindled now to about once a week rather than every day.
Okay, so more once a week. And what kind of activity is that you do once a week?
It's usually just home exercises, home workouts, maybe trampoline, but usually pretty mild workouts.
Okay, so is the trampoline making it worse when you go?
No, trampoline has almost no effect that I can see, whereas doing more grounded activities like jump rope will hurt, but trampoline won't.
Okay.
So that's why I try to do trampoline.
So if you were to pick a couple of goals, what would those goals be as far as, like, for instance, let's say you said you did a lot of parkour. Maybe you want to go back to parkour. Is that one of your goals, or just whatever you want to be able to do?
Yep, I'd like to get back into parkour and regain just confidence in my ankle, because a lot of the times in the back of my mind, I'm scared as I'm walking down the stairs because I feel like it might sprain. So I'd like to have confidence in my ankle again, and then be able to do a little bit of parkour, do some tumbling, and be able to do the things I used to do.
All right. Do you have any medical history in your family? Any cancers, diseases of any sort?
Nope.
Okay. Have you had any problems with breathing, your heart at all, any weird shaped or colored moles on your skin at all? Any of those? Okay. So it sounds like you're pretty healthy besides the injured ankle. Okay. So now I'm going to kind of read you a little bit of a summary on what we talked about, just so you can kind of clarify anything. If I have anything wrong, you can just tell me and correct me. If there's any other information that might be relevant, you can just kind of stop me and tell me right there. So it looks like you have an ankle injury on the outside of your right foot, just like you said. This happened about 10 years ago when you were playing with your brother in the backyard a little bit. You were kind of running around, and you've kind of injured it about 5 times since then. So you've been to doctors, you've had some x-rays, they aren't sure exactly what's going on with your ankle, why it's not healing correctly. You've done some stretching, and sometimes when you stretch your ankle in kind of the opposite direction, it seems to help it, but when you kind of flex your foot up towards the ceiling, it kind of makes it worse when you put some pressure on that. So at home, it looks like you have a 3-story house. You're pretty active going up and down those stairs. Is it painful at all when you go up and down those stairs? Do you ever have any problems?
Not normally, unless it's already been tweaked, but it usually doesn't hurt going up or down normally.
Also, another question I want to ask as far as common activities is your driving. Do you tend to drive by yourself a lot?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm assuming when it's tweaked, it hurts to drive. Is that correct? Okay, so besides when it's injured a little bit, when, let's say you've had a really good day, is it still kind of hurt to drive at all?
Not normally, no.
No, so just kind of when it's been hurt or injured more. All right, so you said your family members kind of live by. You have a couple people living in the same neighborhood, your mom, your cousin, close brother. You were pretty active prior to this. You did a lot of parkour about every day, some hiking, and ever since then it kind of started to slow down. You've been busy and it's been a little painful, and you're kind of lost a little bit of your confidence. with your ankle, and so you kind of go on the trampoline maybe once. Is it trampoline once a week? Or, because I know you said you did some home exercises once a week. How often do you do the trampoline?
Depends on the season. A lot more
Mhm.
often in the summertime, obviously, because it's outdoor. So wintertime, not much. But summertime's usually at least once a week.
Okay, and then you said the trampoline doesn't affect it at all, but ground activities do seem to affect it more.
Right.
Okay. You have no prior family medical history that we should worry about. And you said your main goals were to get kind of back into your parkour and being as active as you were before, to be able to do those kind of activities and skills, and to also have that confidence as far as simple and complex activities.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, awesome. Okay, so one more question I forgot to ask you was, can you tell me a little bit about your work, what you do, if there's any physical activity involved in that?
I'm a software engineer, so I work on a computer all day.
Okay.
So I'm usually just seated at the computer.
Oh.
I don't do a lot of physical activity for
Mhm.
work.
Okay, so it doesn't affect your ankle at all?
Nope.
Do you? Okay, awesome. So also tell me a little bit about what you do on a daily basis. Besides, so you go to work, you're kind of sitting in the computer all day, and you come home. When you are sitting in the computer all day, when you first stand up, is your ankle kind of sore, tender at all?
It does tend to be more sore after it's
Mhm.
been resting for a while and I stand up on it. If I stretch at first, that can be alleviated, but I usually don't. So I do usually experience a little bit of pain the first time I stand up, and I
Mhm.
usually try to stand up and walk around probably about once an hour during work.
Okay, awesome. All right, so that's the last question I have for you. Ready to get started?